Everybody. We are live on LinkedIn Live, and today I'm going to welcome you to the Enterprise Leadership Forum, which has been created by DASA. And today we're going to be talking about the complexity of DevOps at scale. Having had one of our speakers today previously talk about it at our awards ceremony back in April, we realized it was a very important topic, and we have some speakers today who are going to contribute to this topic. And thank you very much for being here. Any questions, please, put them in the live chat. We will be answering them as we go along. I'm your host, Katrina Logie, and I'm here to just, help with making sure that your questions are answered today. And as I mentioned, please write your comments in the box here. And also for future topics, if you have anything that you feel is important to discuss in our forum, we would love to hear from you. This is being recorded, and we will be sending out a video to those that listened with a survey to get some feedback from our audience. And I'm just going to explain a little bit about DASA, and then I will introduce the speakers and our moderator today, Irfan Sharif, on behalf of DASA, who will be facilitating today's conversation. And then we'll wrap up, and any final questions we will answer. So just a little bit about the Enterprise Leadership Forum. It's designed for knowledge sharing amongst our global community, for DevOps practitioners, thought leaders, and industry experts that share how they solve specific problems in their organizations and stimulate ideas for the future. DASA is the world's largest DevOps and Agile association, fostering dialogue, debate, and collaboration amongst leading industry professionals and organizations, with a network of 300 plus partner organizations. DASA helps define, inform, and advance the DevOps industry through networking, information sharing, awards, lifelong learning, and certification. It was founded in 2016 with over 300 plus partners in 48 countries, with over 1,000 professionals who are involved. And as I mentioned, DASA offers guidance and is a platform and community of experts to enable you to successfully navigate your transformation journey. And we do this by focusing on our 4 pillars. The first one being guidance, by offering access to guidance materials that are created by the various working groups we have in place. These are aimed to help organizations refine their transformation journeys by learning from the successes of peers and the collective knowledge of experts. These are in the form of best practices and DevOps maturity assessment scans and guidance papers. And we also have communities, which are a powerful way to advance the movement of DevOps. And the DASA communities are designed to share new ideas, practical suggestions, insights, and lessons learned. And we have a number of communities at the moment, and this is one of them, the Enterprise Leadership Forum, which we will continue to expand on these, and also with a coaching community in the future. And another pillar, which is very important to us, is talent. And DASA has created a new education hub that contains a range of talent management resources designed to create a continuous learning culture for members, and helps to map your team's exact needs to optimize their development. And we are offering organizations the building blocks to manage their own skill development program, with a focus on talent transformation, people readiness, competence building. And we have the Talent Academy, which we are building. And then the final area is recognition and visibility, helping organizations to celebrate their successes and advancements via awards, and helping organizations build employer branding to attract the right talent. So today I'm going to introduce the speakers for the discussion. First up, we have Alban Kornilov, who is Managing Consultant at Capgemini Invent. Welcome, Alban.
Thank you. So,
yeah, nice to have you here, having been at our awards talking about DevOps at scale. And we also have Geoffroy Berlioz, who is also at Capgemini Invent. He's the director at Capgemini Invent. Welcome, Geoffroy.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
And Luca Ingiani, who is DevOps consultant, trainer, and coach. Thank you, Luca, for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Wonderful to have you. And last but not least, Irfan Sharif, who is DASA Research Director, who will be moderating this discussion. And I will hand over to Irfan to introduce the guests properly. Irfan, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Katrina. And welcome, folks. Excited to be part of this conversation, and welcome all the participants as well as the audience that have joined this very interesting but very topical conversation about the complexity of scaling DevOps across teams and across the organization. Leaders, both business leaders as well as technology leaders, understand there's a huge opportunity of getting business benefits and driving business impact and business value by doing DevOps at scale. But doing DevOps at scale is not easy. It has its complexities, and that's what we're going to deep dive into. As Katrina mentioned, Alban spoke about this, and it was a very interesting keynote address where he spoke about the dimensions that people have to consider, people and organization and teams have to consider as they scale DevOps to get the business value that DevOps can potentially deliver. So the dimensions that we are going to focus on in terms of scaling DevOps is the technology dimension, the tool chain that is supporting the fast delivery of product and fast learning and fast incorporation of that learning back into the product itself, as well as the way of working. That is one aspect of the complexity we're going to address and the capabilities that organizations have to build. The other capability, the other dimension is the process dimension. How do we treat process in the context of different applications that organizations run? What is the different sort of cadence that we do DevOps at? And how do we align some of the changes that DevOps brings and make it specific to certain specific context as far as the business product and the business application go? So that is the process element of the conversation. And then we will dive into the people element, which is an all-important element which underpins the success for everything. There's a massive amount of change, both at the technology level as well as the way of working level, which involves a lot of change from a people perspective. And I know all these the panel of speakers and the experts that we have hands-on experience in leading this transformation and seeing some of the challenges in the field. And so they'll bring some of their perspective into how do we help people change as we scale DevOps? What are some of the things that we can do at an individual level, at a community level, at an organizational level? So that is the preface for our conversation today. And with that, I will like to invite Alban to speak a little bit about his experience with DevOps. And obviously, as I mentioned, he had a very successful keynote address with DASA Awards, and some of the knowledge and perspective he brings to scaling DevOps and addressing some of the complexities there. We'll begin with Alban, and then we'll move on to Geoffroy, and then Luca and then we'll end with Luca, and then we'll begin the conversation, folks. So over to you, Alban.
Thank you, Irfan. So yeah, thank you very much for this second possibility to join DASA together. My name is Alban Kornilov. I'm part of Capgemini Invent, where I've been working for past few years already on DevOps topic, and mostly on the technological part. Geoffroy, which is here also, which is my partner in crime in terms of DevOps, actually cover has even more impact on the other dimension, but it's topics. The 3 topics are topics that we have addressed with different clients, with mostly French clients, as we're based in French, like CNAF, like SNCF. Today I'm working in RATP in the digital factory of RATP. What we saw previously is that mostly DevOps is something to push forward for sure, and DevOps is easy and integrated in different startups, and we talk only about cloud native product. When we talk about DevOps at scale, we go further than that, because when you talk about DevOps at scale, it's at the size of a full company, integrating legacy, integrating cloud-ready applications, which are still not fully optimized, and integrating for sure the cloud native that you create directly through the cloud.
Thank you, Alban. And Geoffroy, I know when we spoke earlier, you have a lot of experience both on the technology front as well as helping organizations modernize their applications. And
Yes.
we'd like to have your perspective on scaling DevOps.
So a little bit the same that Alban. The only difference is I'm working a lot on move to cloud. So I have a currently big project on move to cloud, and it's quite an opportunity also to scale the DevOps. And we use a lot that to modernize and accelerate the DevOps in the company. And when I'm talking about move to cloud, it's like a company who are moving like a 900 application on the cloud. So we build the tool chain, and we also have all the change and training part to move forward on the cloud, but also to bring all the DevOps at scale and bring value with this transformation. So it's also one of the leverage that I use a lot currently on my project.
Yeah, thank you. And Luca is the author of Specify and Verify, a very popular DASA course, and it talks to some of the challenges and opportunities and some of the guidance DASA and through the Specify and Verify course that provides on how people can help in how that course itself and the material can help in scaling DevOps. So over to Luca for an introduction about himself. Luca.
Yes, thank you. So I, like many people, I guess, came into DevOps by accident. I didn't actually know the term. I just realized that I needed to change the way I was working. I needed to change the way the teams I was embedded in as a consultant, needed to change a little bit, get a bit smoother, get a bit more able to create high quality products. This is what accidentally led me to DevOps. So I suppose I've been doing DevOps since before I knew the term. And this is still essentially my perspective. I come at this topic from an eminently pragmatic perspective of saying, okay, I need to do things that work, both on the smaller scale and maybe also on the larger scale. And it has also been my discovery that technology is not really about technology. Technology is about people. Like, you need to find better ways for people to work together, for people to communicate, for the right information to be available to the right people, and at the same time not distracting people by superfluous complexity and these kinds of things. So this is the perspective I bring, and this is also the perspective maybe that influenced me creating the Specify and Verify course as a product perspective. Like, what do we need in order to build products that delight customers?
Mm-hmm.
Everything else just essentially flows from that.
Super. Well, that is a very insightful sort of observation. And taking a cue from that, we'll move on to talking about technology and the tool chain as a product, which is, again, to your point, bringing that perspective on treating the tool chain as a product and identifying your customers and collaborators in developing that product. And Albert talked very eloquently about that in the previous awards ceremony. So we'll begin with that sort of, how do we handle the tool chain as a product, and how do we evolve that tool chain so that it is consistent with its original goals? But as the business evolves, how do we ensure that the tool chain also evolves and supports the needs of the business? some of the best practices, some of the challenges associated with that? And how do you maintain the balance between some of the principles with DevOps where you want to give autonomy to people to do their own stuff, but you still need a structure and you need that maintain that balance between different sort of stakeholder requirements? So with that, Alban, I know it's a matter that's dear to you in terms of toolchain and the product thinking around it. Perhaps you can start the conversation there.
Thank you. It's always fun because mostly we use DevOps to create new products which have a better impact for customer, for users, that you will have to that you will be able to ensure quality, security, everything you want to. And when we develop the toolchain for DevOps, we usually don't see it as a product, sadly. While it's a tool for DevOps, we usually don't use DevOps to work for it. What we saw in different companies is that mostly we have huge experts in technology, which know perfectly which repository to use, how to create continuous integration, continuous deployment, and which have a good impact on the technology part. The main point today on what we see also at our client is that this product is maybe perfect in terms of technology, but doesn't actually answer to the requirement of people working for it. And when we talk about a company, we talk about a lot of different business units which have different needs, of technology, of language that they will use for the code, with different needs on use for a question of security, quality for sure. And all of this has to be integrated. So when you build your DevOps factory, for sure, like everything you do in DevOps, you have to do it as a product and in DevOps to ensure that your users will like it and will be able to integrate with it. So mostly you have to align with the roadmap of the different business units that you want in terms of technology, in terms of new evolution, everything which is around. So the goal is always to let them be able also to push forward what they want. And when you work as a team which work on a tool chain, your main collaborators, the main experience that you will get will be from the teams which develop the product, which know the templates that they want, they need, and it's by providing them and letting them participate in the construction of the DevOps toolchain that they will take the DevOps toolchain as something that they can use and as their own. And that's extremely important to go further, and that's the silo which exists today in company between this toolchain, which will be developed in DevOps, and the product where you use the toolchain.
Excellent. Yeah. So maybe from your perspective, you're seeing a lot of move to the cloud, and you have, as part of that, I'm sure there's application modernization that goes with that. Where does the toolchain fit in, and what's the sort of roadmap for managing the toolchain as a product, so that as you're moving these applications over to the cloud and as they evolve from one sort of stage coming, maybe from an architectural perspective or a process perspective, where do you see some of the opportunities for learning and something that you can bring back to the audience here, and some of the challenges and the pitfalls with that? And there's a question around how much autonomy do you give to the teams versus how much you manage it for the teams. So I'd like to hear from Jeffrey, your perspective on the whole.
Me, what I saw when we put in place the toolchain, sometimes it's a really technical topic. So sometimes we have a really good guys who make a really good toolchain, but after 1 year, what we saw is not really used. So the feedbacks that I have is the change in training is key. You can make the best toolchain that you want. If there is not used, it's useless. So when you create the toolchain, you need to see the team that we will use. So as you say, as a product, and involve most of the people that we will use this toolchain, because we know that we have in some companies a really good architect. We have a clear view on what they want, but as you say, they need to work with a product mode, with a view, with offering, like an offering manager, and they need to get the needs to create the best toolchain who answer to the needs of the company. And also the change in training, like it's key, because For example, we have really nice toolchain and so on, but it's not used because people don't really know Terraform and so on, and so it's key to have this global view and not focus on the technical part.
Exactly. That's a good point, I believe, where the skills to enable people to effectively use that have to be part of the delivery of this product, right? And that's where I think the product thinking becomes valuable. It's just like the maturity of the people to use that product also has to be factored in as you build that product. So it's not only fit for purpose in terms of technology, but to drive option and use. As you said, it's no value if it's not used. So how do we get people to get that value out of it? And some of that skills might be, and some of that we'll cover in the other dimensions around process and people. But with that, I'd like to bring in Luca into the conversation, and he's got a very sort of people-centric focus as well. So maybe Luca, from your perspective, what do you see in the field and how we can help people with the challenge?
Yeah, I think that is really the heart of the matter, isn't it? Not just building technology for technology's sake, but building solutions that work for people and with people. And it's so important to realize what's going on. If, for example, somebody says, you know what, I'm not going to use the official solution, I'm going to roll my own. I know Jenkins, I can just cobble my own thing together. That is such an important signal, such an important information to get, because it doesn't mean that that this person is somehow unreasonable or they haven't understood what DevOps is all about or something like that. No, they are perfectly reasonable. They do what's needed, given that you have apparently not been able to give them a product that actually serves their needs, a tool chain that actually is helpful to them. Whether that is because they're confused, because they don't know Terraform, or whether it's too complicated, or whatever the matter may be. This is a very strong signal for you to realize, oh, I need to work on my customer focus. And you might be wondering, how do I do that? The answer is always the same, isn't it? If we are working in a DevOps context, in an agile context, take small steps, have lots of conversations with your users, and don't find yourself in the situation that you've built this marvelous technological solution that people don't care about. Give them something that actually helps them. I am all in favor of people being egoistical and saying, why should I care about this? Why are the things that Luca wants to build actually important to me? It's my job to make sure that it is important to them, that it is valuable to them. And then it will bring the entire organization forward. So in a sense, this is what I've been saying initially, isn't it? That technology isn't really about technology. It's about people. It's about the people who use the technology.
Right. And on that kind of thing, I want to bring a lot of thoughts together from a perspective of a technology leader and a business leader who's perhaps sponsoring this initiative, right? And they're expecting certain outcomes out of this. So what are some of the things, and I know you Alban, you spoke about a product roadmap that is visible, people can rally around, and there's clear sort of a development cycle associated with that. And then keeping that roadmap aligned to what the business goals are might be other aspect of it. So it just goes to the point, point to the importance of not treating it as a technology project with a finished start and end date, but treating it as a product that is enabling business goals achievement. And from your sort of, I know you mentioned it in your previous conversation as well, the product roadmap and the business roadmap. Would you be able to talk a little bit about how you do that so that you can, to Luca's point, how you rally people around the common sort of vision for this? So not only are you building a good product, you're building the product with the right input from all the different stakeholders, with the business or the developers. So
exactly. It's a question of governance on how you put it. You always have two roadmaps when we talk about developing this typology of product. You will have your maintenance roadmap, which is all the components where you will have to put upper versions to ensure that when you have a problem with security, you manage, and you have your business roadmap on what your teams need. When we did the software factory for SNCF, we were working with 5 different business units which we're using. It was mostly, we had more than 600 products in our software factory. Mostly to do so, we had dedicated meetings with the business unit, but we went way further than that, meaning that we had people from all business units working with us at Central to build the software factory together. So they were they were inside the team as any other people of the team as referent to help us construct, to ensure that the roadmap was integrated with their needs and that they could do the interface with also the different product team of their business unit. So meaning that this the role of reference that we did create in SNCF was doing the gap between the technology by itself and the needs of the business. And through them, we were also going to collaborate further with all the business units. The developers of the ops of different teams could actually send for merge request some transformation of jobs, of templates and else, which was then approved by the team on which we could integrate, meaning that all the work which was done by the product, we were profiting from it on the tool chain. So everyone was ready to accept it because it was our product. That was not just a product of a team. It was something which was shared. So we were ensuring through these people that we were aligned with the roadmap, that it was going with the technology need of the different business units on the different product. And more than that, we had also governance for sure with all our users every month to present them all the new topics on the new thing that we had been integrating and sharing what we would do in the next month. A bit like sprints, actually. Even with technology, you can work in agile DevOps.
No, exactly, and that's a very key point, right? It's keeping that constant engagement with your stakeholders, with your user base, and with the people who are funding this. So I think it's important to have that sort of roadmap that defines the path, but the execution of that roadmap involves these ongoing conversations. And thank you for bringing that up, Alban. And at this point, it kind of leads into the second dimension, or the capabilities that organization have to build around process, right? One is we talked about the shift from a more sort of a technology focus to a product focus, or from a project focus to a long-lasting product with a maintenance sort of and continual development of that product involved. But perhaps we can talk about process from a perspective of the different product types or the application types customers have in the organization. Some of them might be legacy, mainframe, and there might be some that are mobile and cloud native. So how do we organize the DevOps program, or the DevOps way of working within these sort of separate contexts? And in terms of how do we ensure that there's autonomy at different levels within the organization itself, how teams interact with each other? We know one size doesn't fit all, but then what is the challenges with proliferation of different types of approaches? So maybe from some of the perspectives that you folks have working in the field, you can talk about this. And I know Luke also has some important insights from a specify and verify perspective, what he's seen in the field and part of the training and the consulting work he does. So and Jeffrey is obviously with the cloud migration. So maybe we'll begin with Alban again to start off with the process aspect, the transformation from to product-based thinking, and how do we align for different stakeholder needs, people with different application needs, from legacy to cloud native to cloud ready, as you call them.
Like Fan was saying, you have different type of product, you have different velocity needs. So mostly when you work on mainframe and you have some products which absolutely don't need to be deployed in production more than one time per year, you will not apply definitely the same process for this kind of products that you can actually manage with cloud native application that you can actually deploy on demand if needed directly when you have a maintenance on a new evolution. So mostly DevOps is not a methodology and it's not something that you put forward on all products in the same way. When you talk about legacy, by example, what you will be able to profit from is automation, is to ensure that when you do your deployment, you just have to push a button and poof, it goes directly on the environment. You will have less DevOps on agility for sure, because you will not be able to do easy sprint on mainframe. You can do cycle actually, which will go further to agile, but you will not have the same capabilities. When you are on cloud native, you will be able to have a full DevOps with a DevOps team where you will have your the DevOps, which will be integrated directly inside the team, which will give you the power to go continuous on demand. When you're on legacy, you don't need directly a DevOps in your team. If it's to manage to do one deployment per year, it has not the same impact, but meaning that you will still need it, because you will be able to configure your jobs, you will be able to ensure when you have, you will put in deployment, you will deploy in production, that you have the good level of quality, you have the good level of security, and you will be the owner of ensuring that. So meaning that the DevOps that you will have can be actually in a center of expertise on in a common and group team, where you will be able actually to use him and to integrate him in the team every time it's needed.
Yeah. And it's a couple of things that I caught on in your conversations, which I think are important for the audience. Is one is around automation, right? And how that sort of leads into the sort of engineering mindset where you're automating all the repetitive tasks, so you have capacity to do creative work and value-added work. And I think it's an important point that you bring up, Alban. And in so much, when there is so much sort of lack of capacity or there is challenges with getting talent onboarded, the fact is that if we are using manual processes where they can be automated, then we are wasting that sort of human capacity that can be doing more creative work for the business. Do you see
Exactly.
something as you see the benefits flow that way?
Exactly, and it's pushing forward. Your team, you can actually manage to centralize them, continue to work on the toolchain, continue to accompany different products, and continue to harmonize. Because here, during the first part of the conversation, we said a lot that everything has to be for the developers, and you can do anything for the product. It's not totally exact, meaning that the goal is to build a product which will help them in all their needs, but it's also to harmonize, because we saw that, I saw that, by example, in RTP, when you begin to not harmonize, if you compare to your product, with your templates, with your way of working, to be able to correct this on long term, if all your product have differences, you will have to invest a lot in resource and to remanage the configurations that you did. Because the more products you will have, if they are totally different, you will not have the scalability in terms of teams also, which will integrate. So mostly the DevOps is actually a rare resource in company today. It's preferred with which are difficult to hire, because you don't have so many compared to the need. So you have to use the best of their capabilities definitely on the time.
Correct. Okay. Thank you. And I think the other point, and we'll bring it to the other people in the team as well, is around how this sort of automation leads to improvement in quality and kind of embedding some of the other aspects like security. And I know, Geoffroy, from your perspective, as you do some of these migrations to the cloud, and as you see these opportunities evolve for improving the process itself, if you could talk about how you set up teams and organizations to scale not only across just the cloud native aspects, but other sort of product types. What do you see?
Yeah, I will make the guy with the feedback also, because I think it's one of the value of this topic. One thing we do at the beginning of a project when we DevOps at scale and so on is the alignment also, because the DevOps it's I don't say that everybody has his own definition, but when we talk about with the infrastructure, when we talk with the developer and so on, each one a little bit has the definition. So first we align like all the people, and we make sure that everybody understands what is DevOps and what is DevOps for my company. And what is DevOps for my company is what you say about the multi-speed, because you will have the cloud native. So you will have a tool chain CI/CD for the cloud native with delivery every week or even better. And we have different level and speed. So you have the alignment, and after you have this multi-speed where you define a picture of what is my mode, what is my speed in my company. Generally, you have three. Now with the cloud, we have mainly now, I think, with the Gartner and so on, we have a cloud enabled, cloud optimized, and cloud native. And for each one, we define what does it mean to be cloud enabled, what does it mean to be cloud optimized, what does it mean to be cloud native. And for each type, you will have the speed and all the layers that you know to define the type. And what is really nice to that, it's everybody's aligned, know what does it mean in the company. And also for the top management, also it's to say, okay, I have 20% currently on my project who are in cloud native. Okay, in 1 year I would like 30%, in 2 years, and you can move forward and protect yourself into a target. So I think it's one of the, because we work a lot for a big company, and it's one of the keys that we bring to have the vision on the DevOps and how you implement the multi-speed that we currently face on all our clients.
And it's talking about speed, right, Geoffroy? I think the sort of categories that you defined as cloud ready to cloud optimized to cloud native, I think it's an important way of making that journey. Because
and also what is nice is when you have for example, I will take the example of one of my clients. You have 3 modes. You have what is called TMG is semester, month, day, and you have this 3 speed in this company because sometimes you don't need. And what we do, we define each type, and we use the effort to pass to one mode to the other. For example, if you are in month mode, sometimes it's good, but if you want to go further and move to the more speed, you know the investments that you need to do and the efforts that you need to do to technological and train people to move this team on this product to the level higher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's an important journey, right? To sort of deliberately think about the stages where you are and make the right investments, both in terms of dollars as well as the people sort of capabilities and capacity. And Luca, over to you from a process perspective as well. What are some of the sort of the practices, the good practices there, and what are some of the pitfalls? Building on the conversation earlier, as well as with Albin and Geoffroy.
Yeah, something that is important to me is to distinguish between the technology and the process. So cloud is a nice thing and everything, but DevOps is entirely independent of whether you are in a cloud native environment or whether the cloud is of any importance to you in the first place. Like, I come from the embedded software world, where in most cases, on one day a truck will come and take my product away, and then it's gone. There is nowhere else to deploy. There is no cloud or nothing. Yet, all of the approaches and patterns of DevOps make perfect sense even in that environment, of course. Just like with mainframe, at some point, it doesn't matter whether you deploy never or once a year. It's, a very, very long time anyway. But the importance is still there. You can still, during development, iterate tightly. You can gather feedback. You can automate not just for the sake of efficiency, but also for the sake of things like implicit documentation, knowledge sharing, analyzability. Maybe you have maybe you have functional safety implications, for example. I used to work on projects where if we got it wrong, people would die. So in those contexts, Agile and DevOps makes perfect sense. If anything, it makes more sense because you can't get it wrong. And DevOps really helps you to move to exactly the right solution. So to my mind, it's very important to realize for yourselves that all of the process level approaches, all of the ways we work in DevOps are independent of technology, of cloud or not cloud or what have you. I think that is just very important to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with that quick pause here, pause briefly. Katrina, are there any questions from the audience? No? And folks, please feel free to, for the folks in the audience, please feel free to type in your comments, questions as we go along. We have some interesting insights here. So I encourage you to contribute.
Yeah, I think we've just had one comment from Ramesh Kumar, who is talking about moving away from legacy is a good thing, but what's important is the cost associated with it and whether it's worth the cost. So it's responsibility to cover that part when we would propose the migration of legacy into any cloud. So any comments on that?
Yeah.
It's actually really interesting, this topic, because mostly we saw a lot of different companies when they do the migration, which are going to the cloud, they are going full lift and shift, which is actually putting your infrastructure directly that you had on premise to the cloud, because we have a lot of difficulties to go on the refactor side. And refactor is meaning changing sometimes the typology of code, the frameworks that you will use, the technology behind. And mostly it takes a lot of time, it can fail, and it's a really difficult process for really old application. There are different methodologies to go further with that, meaning that you have today companies which move forward on the management of the legacy by cutting them, we say, in little functionalities, on which will manage to actually deliver on refactor part of the system, bit per bit, on taking off the dependencies between the brick of the system, and managing like this to, from a really difficult mainframe application that you have difficulties to construct back, to continue to evolve, and to be in a you build it, you run it mode, which is one of the main practice of DevOps. They cut it in piece and they begin refactoring on a bit longer term. And its application modernization should be done with the cloud for the application where it has more than the necessity, the possibility. There is also a question of sustainability behind. Old application actually consume more energy and so are less sustainable. So at some point there is this need, and doing it step by step in a DevOps approach with legacy modernization framework, it can be really interesting a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some long-lasting sort of principles and approaches, and something that Luca also touched on is getting into the principles around whether you're doing embedded software or whether you're doing a mainframe application, the ability to iterate and get some feedback early, and use that feedback to not only improve your product but your way of working as well becomes important. And as you said, with the mainframe systems or the legacy systems, the opportunity is to move beyond lift and shift to actually work towards modernizing the architecture so we can support the DevOps way and the agile way of working in small teams with end-to-end responsibilities, which the fast flow of work and feedback and learning that goes with the modern way of software development. So with that, I think we're doing a quick time check here. Katrina, how are we doing for time?
You've got another 10-15 minutes.
All right. So with that, we'll move on to the next sort of dimension, as well as a capability that organizations will have to deliberately invest in, and which underpins a lot of success with DevOps and agile ways of working. It is the people in combination with technology is what drives value and produces great products that delight customers and moves the ball for the business. So, but there's a lot of change for people as you have been in the field. Both there's a technology change. We have the whole transformation and the move to the cloud and all the new technologies that come with it, the rapid pace of innovation with technology, and there's a lot of learning to be done there. And there is the skills, the soft skills, the behavioral patterns, the cultural changes that people have to make to adapt to working in small batches of work and taking more responsibility and taking ownership of things which previously they weren't. So this is a lot of changes. And I know all of you folks have some ideas and thoughts around how we develop that individual sort of capabilities, as well as how you bring that capabilities to learn as a community. And in our sort of conversations early on, we touched upon some of this. And in terms of, as an example, the Talent Academy as something that DASA provides for its enterprise customers. And you brought about how people learn through communities, both internal and external. And so I want to shift the conversation to how do we help our people and support them and build their capability as at an individual level, at a team level, and an organizational level to help them do, excel in the way of agile and DevOps way of working. And we'll as per our format, we'll begin with Alban. So Alban, over to you for your perspective on the people capabilities.
If I begin by something which was said by Luca in the beginning, is he said that he arrived by DevOps a bit like mistake, and it's because he wanted to manage to go further in his process and actually make better product with facility. And mostly people are not blocked to change for DevOps. People with the developers, the ops, they have all they need. And to go forward on DevOps, they just want to ease and facilitate. So mostly there's no blocker in terms of DevOps on people which want to go in DevOps mode behind. The question behind is how you will manage to make them elevate and actually be able to practice. And Talent Academy is a good way for that, because when you want to make people change, which maybe don't know the practice, don't know what DevOps is about on health, there is a question of training for sure. And on training, which has importance for them, which can be on the toolchain, which can be on the methodology, which can be on the different topics. And that's also the goal of a Talent Academy. It's to make every part of the company on the enterprise understand DevOps. And it's not only the operational, because the guy on top, which will give the order, which will want some different products to be developed, will need also to give this mentality. So the question of DevOps is not only about operational team or having product team. It's about a culture change of the full company to understand. And it's driven by business. And that's what I also put in the previous presentation. What you want from DevOps is business value, better quality, lower time of delivery, no problems of on your environment and the application. You will have the good SLA. So mostly it's driving the full company. So there is really this question about how you actually shape your organization when you begin the DevOps by actually changing the culture on the whole organization. Then you have the question of the practice on the community, which is really important because we have people from different teams which have to go, which have different experience, different background, which can bring each other together different information. You have to break the silo between the organization. We can talk little bit more about process. I saw different companies where they had their product team, but the test team was in a silo in another part of the organization. So you block your delivery process. It will take time. It will create frustration. So mostly creating this community is trying to understand how you overcome the different frustrations that your team have and go way further. And then there is a question of recognition. We talked about upskilling and health. There is a question of retainment on how you manage to bring recognition to these people. Without giving any name of companies, I heard some companies saying we don't actually give certification because if not, they leave the company. That's for me a huge and global mistake. Mostly, the more you will show to your teams, that they have impact on the market, that they can have impact on external on other company with employability, but even in your company, you will value their certification, their way of doing further, of implicating yourself actually out of your boundaries, which is your product, but going further to the transformation of the company is really important. And Geoffroy actually did do a mission on an actor in France to go further than that with different badge. He could talk about it after.
Oh, all right. Maybe that's a segue for Geoffroy. Maybe to talk a little bit about that specific instance, if it's all right with you.
Yeah. One thing before going to the badge, I think one of the key and what we learn also by the transformation is also to get new talent in your company. If you work on DevOps, you can get and you can promote new talent and retain the talent, because sometimes when you work on mainframe and stuff like that, it's hard to retain some people and some new talent. So that's one point, and it's key for the future of the company. And yes, like Alban said, right now I'm working a lot with a huge transformation, and what we put in place is what we call the skill builder. So we build that with one of the biggest hyperscaler, and what we do is we are creating some badges, so people get this university, get some kind of diploma, and it's recognized in the society. They put that in, for example, in the signature of their mail, and they get some goodies, and like that they can be proud. For example, one team, they can be proud, like move forward. We are talking before about Terraform, to have the Terraform badge and stuff like that. And also for us, it's really relevant because we can follow our transformation. We know that we give a 50 Terraform badge, so we know that we train and people are have the level on this topic. So it's what we are creating, and we are moving forward with this kind of gamification, if you like, of the university or training academy.
Right. So it's both make very important points. One is in terms of the role it plays in terms of retention as well as the point you made, Alban, around that everybody needs to be involved in this agile and DevOps way of working. Because at the end of the day, you're not doing it for the sake of doing it. You're doing it to drive business value and compete successfully in a fast-changing digital world. So with that, I think we'll bring Luca into the conversation. And I know Alban talked a little bit about how the people, the leaders, and managers have to embrace this as well. And from your perspective, Luca, you do a lot of training and consulting work. How do you bring sort of the organizational leaders to support some of these changes?
Yeah, so I completely agree with what Alban and Geoffroy said, that it really is a team effort. A DevOps transformation is not something that your IT team does or your IT department does. It really will have an impact on the entire organization. And if you ignore that, you will find yourself in all sorts of, surprising difficulties. 2 years ago, I did a survey of technology leaders in the DevOps space. And I had like 700, I think, replies. And one of the things that I found most interesting was that more than half of them put down that, to their surprise, the DevOps transformation was not so difficult within the IT department, but actually with respect to its effect outside the IT department. So I like to say that the finance department is actually the biggest threat to agility in the workplace, not because the finance people are somehow stupid or something, far from it. But if you don't take them along, if you don't explain to them what you're doing, how you're doing it, why you're doing it, they will not know how to work with you, and that just leads to a lot of confusion. So yes, this is absolutely a team effort, which means that really it also must start at the top. Yes, each individual engineer, just like you said, Alban, has a lot of opportunity to initiate change, but there tends to be some sort of ceiling at some point where leadership must step in and must really take all of these things to heart, enable people to experiment safely, enable people to upskill, enable people to fail. This is just so crucial. So in that sense, agility is not just a technical skill or something, it's a skill across the entire organization, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. And I think all that contributes eventually to some of the things that Geoffroy pointed out as having this agile and DevOps way of working is an instrument for ensuring you retain good talent. Because people do not like to work in environments where it's bureaucratic and where it is slow. And there is obviously sort of struggle for getting the right talent. And one of the ways to make it difficult for talent to stick along is to make life difficult for people to do good work. And the people element. And that's where I think the leadership aspect comes into play. And Ruka had a very insightful thought there about somebody external from the IT organization being able to define the success of it. So I think it's very important to bring those people into the conversation, because at the end of the day, it's about delivering business value and business impact. And with that, I think we have Katrina come back online. So I think
yes,
for wrapping up, Katrina.
We are. We've got 5 minutes, and I've just got a couple of questions here to answer. Again, Ramesh Kumar is wanting to, with the current market, it's really difficult to get perfect DevOps from the market. So while we search for new folks, we will have to train the existing resources and organizations in DevOps principles. What would you suggest to make a resource to master DevOps quickly? Can anybody answer that?
What we put in place is best practice. For example, sharing. For example, if one of your team in Cloud Native and so on, for example, use turning a Scrum Master, it's a best practice. You put that on the intranet, and they can train and can share the experience with other team and less trained team on DevOps. So we empowerment also the people to train each other. So that's one thing we put in place to a little bit answer the question.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
maybe another aspect. I'm sorry, Katrina. Another aspect is to really make it safe for people to grow, and growing also means failing. You can't learn to walk without falling over. You need to have organization, technology, and process in place to enable people to take the first steps into Kubernetes or whatever the case may be, and then you will have your perfect DevOps people in no time, because you'll have DevOps people who will dare to try things out.
Okay, great. Thank you, Luca. And then Sukhbir, how do we manage the governance of various DevOps teams at scale to ensure alignment standards without compromising the autonomy and agility of the various teams and individuals? And Cedric said Sukhbir he has the same concern here, as DevOps requires a lot of ceremony.
I think we lost Katrina, but that's a big part of the thing.
Oh, am I back? Yes.
Yeah, you are back.
Okay. Anyway, so Cedric's also following up with that question. So if you could answer that, Alban, that'd be great.
What we do in different organizations is mostly two things. First, we do integrate, and we have in different clients that I'm working with what we call a design authority. It's a big name to say that we will actually define guidelines, structure, basics. It's a bit on a different subject. When you create REST APIs, but you have a different patterns on different things that you will have to enforce when you will develop to ensure that they have the certificate. It's a bit the same here. It's meaning that you will give a canvas and you will give a vision about the different rules that you will have to apply. When you talk about agility, you have two big models. I don't like to talk about this name, but SAFe and Scrum, and you will have different ceremony on different organizations. It doesn't mean that you will have to obligate all the team to have exactly the same way of doing the same patterns. They will just have an engineering organization. You choose the technologies that you will use for coding, or the typology of different technologies that you will have. You will define the typology of architecture you will structure. That's the same for your model. And it's a model that you will build with your teams. So mostly it's just creating this guideline on this framework, which will make them work. And that's an entity in most of the company, which is the design authority, which is not only about architecture, it's also about design. It's also about assets, this methodological asset part, which is extremely important, and help us push forward these guidelines. But definitely not all, because teams have to have also a certain bit of independence.
Okay, great. Well, Cedric's also asking, how do you align between the teams? So, that it's the governance alignment is clearly and regularly communicated.
We talk about, so you have the regulation, which is mostly the canvas that you will put and which will be pushed forward by the design authority. You can have a recurrent meeting. Mostly it's more in the communities, yes, that you will integrate that. We talked a lot about the communities of practice, how you have on a product, the product owner, which have, say, communities for developer, tech leads, and else, and you have cross communities. It's mostly the people which will animate these communities are part of the design authority. And so that's also where you will push forward these guidelines. It's through these communities. You are working together in the communities to define. In RATP, in one of our communities, we are working on automotive testing. So defining on every structure, every project that we have in RATP, how we have to build this automotive testing. We build it together. On these topics that we build together will become the guideline for the new project and the old project also.
Okay, great. And just one more question before we close. Lena, what type of team organization is preferred, having cross-functional product teams that has developers, testers within the team, or with collaborative dev, QA, and ops teams?
Both. Like you need to have those skills within the team, but also you will end up, I think, almost naturally having certain pockets of specialists that offer products, internal products that are valuable to the rest of the organization. I don't think it's an either or. I think it's having the exact right combination.
And that's what we said just before about the different tips, the legacies, the cloud native, and else. It's different product with different level of maturity and so different way of integrating the team. You don't need to have your QA on ops team if at all the point on the mainframe. So you will have to define how you organize.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Fan?
On that note, I think we're at the top of the hour here, and thank you once again, folks, and for spending some time with us discussing this very important topic. And thank you, the folks who joined the call. And you can keep in touch with us through email, and Katrina will send out a follow-up email with the contacts. So with that, we will call it a wrap.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for participating, and thank you guys for being a part of this webinar today. And do follow us at www.devopsagileskills.org. We will be doing more webinars coming up in September, the next one being on value streams management, and any topics that you think are important to discuss or you would like to host a webinar, we'd be very happy to hear from you. So thank you, everybody, and see you at the next event.
Thanks, Katrina. Thanks, Irfan. And thanks all of you.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.